AUS training series, where all topics tie back to the key tasks identified in the AUS position description, or PD. And since the PD says what we have to know how to do, this class series focuses on the skills and topics that speak directly to what the PD says. If we can get the fundamentals covered, we'll do great things and get top shelf performance evaluations every year. In this class, we will look at a training program that is absolutely essential to the AUS skill set, the FAC-C certification. Now, previous classes have been about specific job functions, but this is a big picture class about the very nature of the AUS job series. I am Stephen Clements, and I will be your guide through this topic. I spent several years in VA contracting, switched sides to the good life of being an AUS, and earned the highest certification in contracting, the FAC-C Level 3. My lovely assistant and fellow Wisnik AUS, Martin Wallace, who recently earned his FAC-C Level 1, will be monitoring the chat and helping out because I might ask you some questions along the way, and he will be happy to help with your general questions. If you have a question specifically for me, please let me know at the end of the class. And this class will be recorded for posterity. The slides will be made available after the class. And unless you're a presenter, please mute your mic and make sure your video camera is turned off. All right, let's kick things off by asking the question, what is a FAC-C certification? What are we even talking about here? Please put your answer in the chat. What does that acronym mean? What's it certifying?
Thinking, man. Stop asking me questions. Give me a minute. Let's see. Nothing yet. Maybe we should start the whole dun 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 dun. Nothing yet. Nobody's got any answers. Nobody? Anybody? There we go. Federal acquisition contracts, certification that you can bargain on behalf of the government, contracting officer training. There must be 3 people in the audience.
Right. Well, I appreciate those who've got their thinking caps already put on. And so that looks like a variety of answers we got. So we will explore this further. And the intended audience for this class is the AUS. And our task and purpose include our task to familiarize the AUS with what a FAC-C certification is, why we need it, and how to earn it. Our purpose in doing so is to ensure the AUS job series is properly educated and trained to be contracting experts. Our desired outcome of this class is that attendees will learn the value of a FAC-C certification for them and understand how to earn a FAC-C Level 1. And we will meet our task and purpose by looking at topics such as, what is the FAC-C certification? What does the AUS have to do with them? Why do you need one? How do you earn one? And how do you apply for one? So FAC-C is the acronym for the Federal Acquisition Certification in Contracting. We get that from the Federal Acquisition Institute, which is the federal group charged with developing the federal acquisition workforce. Many of you have had you have a related certification and the training that went with that, the FAC-Core, or the Federal Acquisition Certification for Contracting Officers Representatives. So what's the FAC-C for? It is a civilian agency certification program whose purpose is to establish and standardize the education, training, and experience requirements for contracting professionals. The FAC-C certification applies to all executive agencies except the Department of Defense, which uses a slightly different contracting certificate. Everyone else uses the FAC-C. So we have a certification program. Where did the certification program come from? When did it start? Well, the modern era of certifying contracting professionals in the federal government started in 1990 with the Department of Defense, with the DoD's DOEA certification program. Later, the idea spread to the rest of the federal government with the procurement policy letter I've got noted on the slide, and that kicked off the FAC-C program. That original policy letter told the Federal Acquisition Institute to make a contracting professional certification program for the other agencies which leads us to the question, what is a contracting professional? Who are we trying to certify? What are we trying to certify them in? Well, per the same policy letter, a contracting professional is someone who defines, determines, and manages requirements, performs acquisition planning and strategy, performs contract administration, and participates in the contracting process. Sounds awful familiar. And so FAI did come up with the FAC-C certification for contracting professionals based largely on the work DoD did with their DOEA program. And this, as in many other ways, the Department of Defense does lead the way. And there are 3 successive levels of FAC-C certification. And as the level number increases, so too does the complexity of contracting principles involved. For our friends in contracting, these FAC-C levels are key because contracting officers can only award contracts if they have a big enough warrant to handle the IGCE or award value of that contract. Well, I've just mentioned warrant. What's a warrant? Well, legally speaking, the only people authorized to spend government dollars are the president, heads of the agencies, and warranted contracting officers, at least in the executive branch. That's why if you or I promise to give a vendor money, that's an unauthorized obligation because we don't have warrants. We don't have the legal right to commit government funds. The only times we can spend money is if a contracting officer somehow, somewhere has explicitly authorized us to do it, such as with government purchase cards, ordering officer delegations, and things like that. Not everyone in contracting can spend money either. As we mentioned, to be the contracting officer on a contract, the contracting specialist has to have a warrant big enough to handle the requirement's dollar value. And so there I mentioned contracting officer and a contracting specialist. Well, if you're a contracting specialist, which is the base title of the 1102 job series, you may or may not have a warrant. Generally, you don't have a warrant if you're a contracting specialist. Once you get a warrant, which you can only get after you pass certain tests and meet certain criteria, then you're generally referred to as a contracting officer. However, say you're I posted the dollar values associated with each warrant level on the screen so you can see, and I put a link to the source describing them in the presenter's notes. If I had a level 1 warrant, that means I could be the contracting officer on contracts up to the simplified acquisition threshold, which is generally $250,000. Now, if I was doing work on a contract package for $12 million estimated value, I would be a contracting specialist for that package. I wouldn't be the one signing off or committing funds on that contract package. I would need a contracting officer with a level 3 warrant to play the role of a contracting officer. And so, what is the AUS's role regarding FAC-Cs? Please put your answer in the chat. Since we're not in contracting, we can't have warrants to spend federal dollars. So why am I giving a class on FAC-C certifications to the AUS job series? What do you think?
Oh, man, really fast. Knowledge is power.
That's right. That is right.
This is out there for the next level and experience.
Always useful.
Assist with contracting process.
Yeah. These are all.
I don't know. That's why I'm here.
That's right. Well, I'm going to teach you. We're going to go over all that.
Career options and advancement, build quality packages to support services, and then NCO 17. Getting real specific there.
Yeah, that is very specific. So I checked the AUSPD to see what it had to say, and here are some key lines I found. Now, I'm not going to read every one of them, but everything you see highlighted speaks to us being contract experts. Everything listed directly mentions the AUS needing to be a contracting expert or points out a contracting centered task we have to know how to do. And you see, we got Right in the introduction, we got a bunch of important points there. From our first major duty, contract liaison, it's already showing up there. And the PD keeps going. It tells us we need to know far more than just how to make requirements packages. We have to know how to engage in negotiations with vendors, and there is a substantial library of knowledge to learn how VA wants us to do that. We have to know the different types of modifications, when to use them, how claims, disputes, and terminations work. We have to be subject matter authorities to best advise our customers. And again, the PD has more to say. We've moved beyond the major duties sections and now we're into the key factors for the job in the PD. You see twice on this slide where we must be recognized authorities on contracting. We have to know this material well enough that we can do the job without a CO holding our hand or having to work under the close scrutiny of someone who knows contracting better than us. We are the experts for our cores and our customers, our facilities as a whole, and how they can make their contract documents under our close supervision. We have to know enough to where people work under us to address their contracting issues. And it keeps going. The PD describes our knowledge requirements in ways that undeniably demonstrate we have to be masters of the material. A novice recites facts by rote, but is stumped when asked a question not clearly answered in their sources. A master knows the sources so well that they can provide sophisticated interpretations and provide guidance in gray areas that inevitably come up. And again, our PD keeps going. It's almost like from start to finish in our PD, it says we, the AUS job series, have to be contracting experts, the source authorities on this stuff. Almost every section speaks directly to the fact we have to know everything about contracting. We have to know it. We have to be our senior leaders, expert advisors on it, and we have to know it well enough to be able to teach it to people. That's more than rote memorization or following a checklist. This requires us being masters of the subject matter. Well, why? Why did the VA create the acquisition and utilization specialist position and tell us we need to know all that? Well, back in 2008, what I call the Great Separation happened when contracting was separated from the hospitals they served. They used to be, more often than not, co-located with the facilities, and each contracting officer worked for a facility under that facility's director. However, they were taken out of our chain of command and given their own. They were given their own offices, so not only were they separated organizationally from us, but also physically. Their contracting knowledge, however, was stuck in their heads, and their heads can only be in one place at a time. And if those heads are not at the facilities where they can, on a day to day basis, advise our end users, customers, senior leaders, then they're that much further away from the end users and serving our veterans. VA suffered from the brain drain, and in 2016, the VA created us to fill the gap, the AUS job series. This is what we were made for. We are the appointed contracting advisors for our facilities. Now, if you don't have a copy of the PD written to state exactly that, I've included one on the slide. When you get copies of this, you'll be able to pull it off of there. Alongside it, I also included the PD for contracting specialists. I encourage you to read both because you'll see just how much overlap our job series have. And just as I did with the AUS PD, I pulled out key points from the contracting specialist PD to demonstrate what I'm talking about. We both have to know the regulations and interpretive sources. We both serve as critical members of our acquisition teams. We both use our expert knowledge to help our customers document their requirements. We both coordinate the teamwork needed to usher our requirements through to approval. And the more time you spend reading and comparing our PDs, the more you see we need to know everything contracting knows, and that Steve Clements isn't just saying that because he needed to fill time. This is legit. There's two things that they do, contracting people, that we don't. I've got those listed at the bottom. We don't publicize solicitations or post awards, and we don't sign the contracts. We don't have the authority to do either of those things. We also don't have access to the ECMS program the electronic contract management system that they do. And so obviously we also can't push those buttons in ECMS, even if we were authorized to do so. But we're supposed to know how these things are done. And the contracting people, they're supported by their PD in acquiring the education and training necessary to do their jobs and to do all the things that we're required to know, um, because their PDs require all contracting specialists to earn both their FAC-C level 1, and then once they've gotten that taken care of, then to earn their FAC-C level 2. I consider it an oversight that our PD does not require us to do so, because the FAC-C program is the best way to learn the things our PD requires of us. Now, one might expect that the overlap we just explored is enough reason to want the same certification that contracting has to earn. We're supposed to know the same things, and the way they gain that knowledge is through the FAC-C program. So why wouldn't we do the same thing? But there's more reasons we should want to earn a FAC-C certification. Here, I list 4 such reasons, but there could be more. We're going to talk about each in the next slides. First and foremost, if you're not an experienced contracting specialist and have already had to earn your FAC-C certification, the FAC-C program provides the education you need to do for our job. And when I've taken the classes that you have to do and been mentored while I was in contracting, I've had exceptional teachers show me how it all works, which is way better than trying to figure all this out on your own. The contracting is not simple. It is some complicated stuff, and it's important to have masters of the subject help impart that to people who just don't know it, who don't know it yet. They haven't had the opportunity to. Uh, us AUSs, we are slotted in logistics departments, which makes some sense. But it's rare that our supervisors or our coworkers in those departments are experts in contracting. They're familiar with all kinds of other mind-bogglingly useful information, but not in contracting. Now, if you are, but those are fairly rare. The number of AUSs I've heard from that say before this class series that we're doing, the AUS PD class series, they were all alone and had no one to teach them the job. Those AUSs are way more common than the AUSs who say, I didn't know anything about contracting when I became an AUS, but now I've got all these people helping me out. I don't think I've heard of those people claiming that. And while I'm glad this AUSPD class series is helping, by itself, this isn't enough. I have you for like an hour a month, and we tackle some complex topics. We go deep in on them. I condense all kinds of information from years of experience and learning into those 1 hour sessions for you, but it's not enough. The FAC-C program can teach you what you need to know in depth. And if we're supposed to be contracting professionals, well, a profession is a trained cadre of people knowledgeable and experienced in a specialized labor sector, and contracting work is pretty knowledge intensive and specialized, and it also demands professionals. We need to earn this professional certification for contracting as a sign that we have passed the quality standard for professionals in the contracting field. Second, these classes will improve your work quality. If you have found this AUS training series has helped with your work, imagine if instead of 1 hour on a topic, you had a week. And instead of listening to me lecture for an hour, you had hours of lectures and hands on practice to work with what you learned under the supervision of your teacher. And there are tests to provide objective proof that you mastered the material. And you will be trained to the same standard our contracting friends are. So you will be just as capable as them in doing contract work. Third, a FAC-C certification will help you get promotions. So to this point, there's not a lot of mobility in the AUS world since our positions start at GS 11, very few 12s, and so far, to my knowledge, only 113. which my HR insists was a mistake and that 13 shouldn't exist. Well, some things might be changing, but I haven't seen anything um, set in stone about that. So, for the most part, we got 12s to look at, and those 12s are supervisory AUSes, VISN AUSes, and there's two consortium AUS positions, and that would be me and Marty. Um, all three of those areas require you to be a senior advisor to other AUSs or more senior customers. So if you're an 11 going for one of those 12 slots, the competition goes up. You need to be able to show that you have what it takes to be that senior advisor, not someone who can learn and be trained into the position. Those 12 slots are for senior advisors. You're supposed to show up knowing this stuff so you can teach the 11s and be a better advisor to those senior leaders that you will be attached to. And if you're in the Wisnik area and going for one of those jobs, there's a pretty good chance I might be on your hiring board. Things I always look for is a FAC-C certification and time spent as a contracting officer. So when I make my recommendations on who to pick, who to interview, this and that, I need to know that the candidate I recommend to senior leaders is the real deal and knows their stuff. Years working for contracting is good, and a FAC-C certification is even better. It provides objective proof to me that VA has endorsed you knowing your stuff. Now, if you've made progress towards a FAC-C but not finished it, note that on your resume because it tells me that you're almost there, and it tells me that you know what the AUS position is about because you've gotten the objective educational credentials to show that, yes, you've been learning this stuff. And the disparity in scores I see between candidates who have a FAC-C and those who don't is usually insurmountable for those who don't. Basically, at that point, you'd be hoping that the person with the FAC-C, if you don't have a FAC-C, that the person with one completely flames out in the interview portion. But trying to achieve success on your merits by hoping someone, or trying to achieve success on your own by hoping someone completely fails in their attempt, that's not a real good strategy. So I wouldn't recommend it. But besides the AUS position, since we live in the supply chain world and report to logistics supervisors, if in addition to learning about contracting, you were to pick up knowledge of the EX and NX supply chain functions, you might make a quality candidate for supply chief or deputy chief of logistics positions. For fourth, perhaps you want a career path with even more advancement opportunities than the facility side of VA has to offer. Unlike the AUS world, um, jobs in contracting start at GS5 and go all the way up to SES, and you don't ever have to change job series to keep going. A GS5 contracting specialist intern can easily become a GS13 supervisor if they earn their FAC-Cs and do their jobs well. GS12s are easier to come by for contracting specialists than they are for AUSs. And if in your application to contracting, you can list a FAC-C certification of any level, you will stand out because they get a lot of people applying that have no prior contracting experience. But if you show up saying, I already got my FAC-C level 1, you're going to get attention. You are going to um, bear a much, you're probably going to be much further ahead than those who don't. Because the timeline for taking a person brand new to contracting to being a fully functional contracting specialist is at least 2 years. It can go longer. That's a long time, and that's a lot of investment to make in someone. But if you show up already with the main educational credential, that's power. And that 2 years, that's not only for the new contracting specialist to build their experience, but also to get them through the FAC-C training courses. So if you say to the hiring board, you're pretty much capable day one with a little bit of show and tell on how to use ECMS, that represents real value to contracting. And it also helps you that contracting is perennially short-handed, even in good times. So if you want promotability, it's hard to do better than the contracting career path. So there are the reasons you should view the FAC-C as the gold standard for AUS training. I'm sure some of you are saying, but Stephen, I've got this FAC core and keep getting great performance evaluations. Or I've got my FAC PPM, so I know everything I need to know. Why isn't another certification just as good to prove an AUS knows their stuff and meets our PD's demands? What are your thoughts? Do you think there's a better certification out there or one that's just as good? Please drop your answers in the chat. Why is Steve Clements so hung up on his FAC-C? Is it because he only has a FAC-C and he can't learn anything else? Is he a one-trick pony? Is that what's going on? What do y'all think?
FAC-C is the best.
I like that. All right. I like that enthusiasm.
It is specialized for contracting.
Good. Good. All right. So this is a question I answered for senior leaders before I could even start putting together the AUS PD training series, because there are other certification programs out there, and we wanted to make sure we found the one that best fits our job description, that most closely hews to what is expected of the AUS. So let's take a look at them and see how each compares to what our PD requires of us. Now, most of you have at least a FAC Core Level 1, and that is the most common certification facility employees are likely to have. It's easy to get, requires less than 2 days of training to earn. The few courses mostly focus on invoice management tasks, which is important. However, it does not provide an in-depth contracting education. It simply doesn't have the time to make you a contracting expert. There's also the Federal Acquisition Certificate for Program and Project Managers, or FAC-PPM. In about 2 weeks of classes, you can earn the entry-level certification. The range of topics it covers is impressive and is very useful for preparing supply chain managers for the breadth of their work. However, contracting is only one part of the curriculum. By comparison, the FAC-C Level 1 certification requires almost 3 times as many class hours to earn. So an incredible amount of contracting material will not be covered by a FAC-PPM. And there's also the Supply Chain Management Professional Certification, which the VA Acquisition Academy recommends the Level 2 cert for GS employees in our range. This is not a FAC certification, but rather a training program offered by the Academy Supply Chain Management School and the Penn State Supply Chain Program. It's pretty neat. Each certification level is customized it's a customized training program for supply chain professionals appropriate for their organizational function. So level 1 is for technicians. Level 2 is for low to mid-tier managers and specialists. And level 3 is for senior supply chain managers. It requires 245 hours or 6 weeks of classes to earn the level 2 most of us would need if that was the standard. However, like the FAC-PPM, the curriculum mostly focuses on nuts and bolts logistics management and relatively little on contracting, which does not help us since that's what our PD almost exclusively focuses on. I'm not saying that any of these are not helpful to have. It's just our PD says contracting, so we need that contracting information. So in brief, none of the other certifications match the training topics our PD says we need. FAC Core is completely inadequate for the depth of contracting knowledge required by the AUSPD. PPM is too general, and so is the SCM professional. We really should use the FAC-C as the standard certification program for the AUS job series because it almost perfectly matches what our PD requires of us. As a former contracting officer and holder of a FAC-C Level 3, it is my reasoned opinion that a FAC-C Level 1 certification is a good fit for the knowledge base the average AUS needs to have. More is better, but a Level 1 covers the basis of contracting that an expert should have because it will expose you to the breadth of tasks and foundations of knowledge that you need to work with. Now, how do you earn a FAC-C? Well, there's 3 key criteria that must be met, including college educational requirements, professional training classes, and a suitable write-up of your contracting experience. I'm about to walk you through what you need for each category to earn a FAC-C Level 1. I've also included on the slide a short PDF I made that will step you through these requirements should you want it. So you can just pull it right off the slide. And special thanks goes out to NCO 20 Training Officer John McBride because I based my guide on his PowerPoint. And if you're not well acquainted with your NCO training officer, so the network contracting office in your area, I encourage you to find them and say hello. They're usually very nice people, and they're good, good training resources. And since we're charged with training people on contracting issues, go ahead and pick your training officer's brain to see if they already have a training class on the very topics that you want to cover, because they probably do. They are a wealth of knowledge ready to be used. So, the education requirement, this has to be met with college credits. And you can prove this in your application that you have the appropriate credits with an unofficial college transcript. You do not need an official college transcript. Just an unofficial college transcript will do in form of a PDF pulled off of your education or your Institute of Higher Learning's website or whatever you got. You need to have either a bachelor's degree from an accredited college or 24 semester hours of business related college courses. If you need to go the 24 semester hours path instead of the bachelor's degree path, I included a PDF on the slide that defines what can count as business related courses because it's quite a bit more expansive than you might think. So I'd recommend checking it out. Your English classes might be able to count towards this because that's improving your communication skills. Some of your government and political science classes can count for business related courses. So do check that out. And the professional training classes we need are taken from either instructors at the VA Acquisition Academy or online classes through Cornerstone On Demand. Four of the classes that are required for a FAC-C Level 1 require an instructor, but 11 of those classes can be done at your own pace online. FAC-C Level 1 requires 254 class hours, or just over 1.5 months. The PDF I provided 2 slides ago shows the list of required classes, and if you search Cornerstone On Demand for the FAC-C Level 1 page, it also provides the list. Both lists or both types of classes generally require lectures, doing quizzes, and passing graded tests to prove that you mastered the content. So nothing crazy there. And these classes tackle our PD requirements one right after another. And even if they make your brain hurt for a little bit, you'll benefit enormously from taking them. Oh, good. Can everybody see my screen? Because I just had a little internet hiccup here.
Yes, I can see it.
Very good. Very good. Thank you. All right. And so I'll backtrack just slightly. And that FAC-C Level 1 requires 254 class hours, or just over 1.5 months of class. And the PDF I provided 2 slides ago shows the list of required classes. And if you search Cornerstone On Demand for the FAC-C Level 1 page, it also provides the list of required classes. Now, either type of class, either instructor-led or self-paced online, they both require you watching lectures, doing quizzes, and passing graded tests to prove you mastered the content. And these classes tackle our PD requirements one right after another. And even if they make your brain hurt for a little bit, you'll benefit enormously from taking them. Now, how do you sign up for and take these classes? You will use Cornerstone On Demand to find them and sign up. For the instructor-led classes, they're offered only on specific dates, so you'll have to plan the timing of getting into the classes you want. A thing to remember is that the contracting professional school within the academy gives preferential class registration to contracting specialists, and we will be waitlisted until the school verifies that contracting does not need every seat in a given instructor-led class. Now, there's efforts to help with that situation, but right now we get waitlisted, and so while that can be inconvenient to be waitlisted, it does make sense that the people who need these classes to get their warrants so they can start awarding more contracts get priority over folks who can't sign contracts. So, I'm not mad about that. In my experience, being waitlisted has not been a meaningful obstacle. And for the self-paced online classes, you simply select the class you want and go through it on your own time. If you've not taken one of these classes before, you may be curious what the instructor-led classes are like. Well, they come in two varieties: virtual classes, where your computer is your classroom, and in-person classes. Virtual classes are usually more convenient and much more popular these days because you do them at home or in your office. No travel needed. You just log in, and your virtual classroom is usually like a WebEx application. And WebEx is pretty handy. It allows ample opportunities to comment, talk, and share with your teacher and classmates. And while it is the cheaper option for the VA, since they're only paying for their instructor, the downside is that your exposure to your fellow students is very limited. There's virtually no chance you're going to socialize or network inside or outside of class time together. And there is value in those things. Your in person option will almost always take place at the Academy in Frederick, Maryland. Now, rarely the Academy will allow someone to organize a class, like, say, in your VISN or at your NCO, but those are pretty exceptional. In general, you would have to be at the Academy in Frederick, Maryland. And the VA Acquisition Academy is a large space with plenty of classrooms and an office park that's dangerously convenient to some very tasty restaurants. This does mean that you have to somehow, some way get there. Most of us would fly, and you have two options for airports nearby: Washington, D.C., and Baltimore. I think Baltimore is very convenient, and it's a Southwest hub for those who like them. And unless you stay at the one hotel within walking distance of the Academy, you'll need a rental car or take a lot of taxis. To get to the rental car lot at the Baltimore airport, there's a shuttle bus that'll take you from the terminal to the lot. And speaking of hotels, my favorites are near the Westview Promenade Mall area. There's a lot of them over there, and the food and shopping options nearby are fantastic. Now, booking airfare, rental car, and hotel all involve making travel authorizations, which is quite a pain. You'll need to learn the Concur system if you don't know it already, and seemingly no matter how many times you use it, your request will always get kicked back with some error to fix. Well, when you get there to Maryland, you may discover that Maryland gets the worst weather of both north and south. It's hotter than blazes in summer, and it shuts down from blizzards in winter, which may shut down the school for days, like it did for me one time. However, you will get FaceTime with excellent instructors and contracting professionals from all over the VA. Hyperlinked on the slide is the Academy's website with more details on these topics, and the Concur website should you need it. So once your college credits and classes are seen to, you'll need to write a narrative describing your experience with contract work. You'll need to show at least 1 year of experience working with contracts, and that experience can come from any source, not just from your time as an AUS, prior CO experience, federal government experience, doesn't matter. If you can demonstrate where you were engaged in meaningful contract related work, it can count. Now, the structure of the narrative should follow the key points mentioned on this slide because it has to show that you possess knowledge, skills, and abilities the FAC-C competency model says contracting professionals must have. You can find the model's details at the hyperlink in the slide. But if you are doing what our PD says you should be doing, you'll have those things covered. There is a specific form we have to use for this narrative, and I put a blank copy on the right side of the slide, the qualification statement, as you can use. I also included my most recent narrative as a sample for when I went for my FAC-C level 3, because while my details will be different from yours, you can use mine as a template to format yours. As long as you're hitting the points that I address, you should be fine. It doesn't, for a FAC-C level 1, your relevant dollar values don't have to be anywhere near as high as they need to be for a 2 or a 3. So don't get hung up on, oh man, Steve is working on $30 million contracts. Don't worry about that. Just address the points and you'll be okay. So once you have those 3 things seen to, this is how you apply. I made this list here, so if you need to check it later, you know exactly where to go. And this process is purely electronic through Cornerstone On Demand. First, search for and find the FAC-C Level 1 option within CSOD. Once you find it, there will be a request button, which you click that. And once you click it, that button turns into Manage. Click that, and a page will open with a long list. That list shows all the requirements we've described, what classes you need to take, what experience you need to have, and so on. Your professional classes, once you've completed them, they will show with that status, because Cornerstone On Demand will pull the course status from your records of the classes that you took automatically. Now, something that won't happen automatically is you will need to upload your college transcript and narrative, qualification narrative, in the entries for them, then save those items. Once that's done, you should tell the VA approver to push it forward. Unfortunately, Cornerstone On Demand does not automatically notify the approver for the certification. So we do have to manually alert her using the link on the slide. Once you click that link, there's going to be a button that says Request CSOD Document Review. Click on that. Just answer the couple details there, and that will push the notification to her. And I've seen approvals go as fast as the next day after it was requested to over a month. But on average, it seems to take about 3 weeks for your FAC-C certification to show up after submission. Now, I put an asterisk on this last point here because I only know of one approver for the VA. If she's out of office, nothing happens. Also, before you notify her, do get in touch with myself or Martin Wallace, because we'll be happy to review your application with you to make sure everything looks good. Because we don't want an oversight keeping you from passing on your first try. Martin just recently went through this. It's all fresh in his mind. He got his level 1 certification. I've gotten all 3 levels of the FAC-C certification. So I've jumped through the hoop enough times to where I know what right looks like. So you take advantage of us as a quality assurance tool. We don't mind at all. And now, instead of just telling you about it, I'm going to show you where you find this information in Cornerstone On Demand and what it looks like. So just be one moment while I get us over to Cornerstone On Demand. All right, so here we are at the home page. I've already logged in, and if you don't have access to Cornerstone On Demand, you need to get that taken care of, because this is the major hub for our training needs in VA. And so you've got a few options here because we're looking for the FAC-C Level 1 certification. Well, there's a button that says Find Certifications. You could click on that, or you could go to this search bar, put in FAC-C, see what we get. Now, it's not always the fastest website, so we might have to wait for it. There we go. And we get a whole bunch of responses. You get some certification results, you get some training results. Over here on the left, you have where you can further refine these by, if you just want training, you can click on that. You'll just get the classes. If you just want certifications, you click on that and you'll just see certifications. And so it pulled back everything that it found with a FAC-C in it. So you got your FAC core. All right, you got that. But here you got your FAC-C level 1, 2, 3, and then the digital services specialty. But right now we're just looking at the FAC-C level 1. Oh, now that I've got the FAC-Cs and the FAC cores on the same page, if you've earned a FAC-C of a certain level and you want the FAC core, but you haven't earned it yet, you can click into this, and after just a couple of clicks later, the system will automatically give you the FAC core that corresponds with your level of FAC-C. It will not do the opposite. So a FAC-C level 1 will give you a FAC Core level 1 for free. You don't have to take any more classes. But if you have a FAC Core level 1, that is not the same as a FAC-C level 1, and you will have to go through all the extra steps for that. All right. So here we go. We have all the training details that Cornerstone On Demand has to tell us about a FAC-C Level 1 certification in contracting and the acronym. You have a brief description of it here. And for instance, it says it's closely aligned with the DoD's DOEA's training requirements, but they're not identical. But if you were to go for a job in contracting for DoD and you had a FAC-C certification, you're further along than you would be otherwise, and that will help with your application. And we scroll down here and we see requirements. What are they? Experience and education. Here we are. This is where you would go to put in your experience narrative. Here's where you would go to put in your unofficial transcript. And then you've got required training. And it lists the classes you would need to take. So you can look right here and see. You could check them off as you go along, which ones that you've done, which ones you haven't done. And these will also tell you if they have prerequisites or not. And this is a one-stop shop for keeping track of what it is you need. And because this is a centralized training system, if there's any changes to it, to the curriculum, it's going to show in here. So this is probably the most up-to-date way you can stay current with the current level of details. And so let's see what we got here. So this is how you would find it. Now I'm going to take you a little bit deeper here. We're going to go to view my transcript so I can show you certain buttons. And I only want to look at certifications. And we got here FAC-C level 1, FAC-C level 2, FAC-C level 3, or FAC-C level 3 up here. All right, so click on that. All right, you'll see this page looks a little different than the one we just looked at, because I've already clicked on the button to request FAC-C level 1 certification, and now I'm in the managing section of it. Once again, you have a brief description of the thing, and then you have a condensed list of the requirements that you have to have in order to get one. I want to show you where you go for to upload the items, your education and your experience narratives. And if you click on this experience verification, it gives you instructions. So it's trying to hold your hand along the way to make sure that you get to where you need to go in order to get the document submitted that you need to do. And so click the attachments tab. Well, I don't see an attachments tab right here. So I'm going to click this request button. And then you got the instructions again. I'm going to click request. And all right, so I'm going, basically what I just said is I want to request, or I'm ready to request someone to verify my experience level. So I'm going to click view checklist. And then right here, you have the instructions again, where you go and where you put the documents you want, and rating scale. That, that's not really for us, but attachments. This is what we're looking for. And then to add attachment, I would click on this. It would ask me what file I want to upload. I would select it, click add, and I've got it added. And then I would make sure to click save, because that's the last thing I need to do in order to get the my narrative or my unofficial transcript loaded in. And then once I've completed all my classes, I've put in that experience narrative and the unofficial transcript, that's when I go to that link we just looked at to notify the approver, hey, I've got all my stuff in, please take a look at it. And that is just how hard it is to do this in Cornerstone On Demand. So let's get back to the slides real quick. And now we're at the summary. That our key takeaways from this class are that being a contracting expert is the AUS job. We had slide after slide, direct quotes from the AUSPD saying this is our job. And FAC-C certification program is the standard federal credential or proving contracting expertise. It's written in the policies. Required training classes, if you take them and pass them, will greatly improve your job performance. And with the right training, education, and work experience, you can earn your FAC-C level 1. Now, there was an urban myth going around that non-contracting officers or non-1102s cannot earn a FAC-C certification. That is wrong. I have it in writing, both in the policy letters that establish the FAC-C program, but also from the person who approves the certificates. And Martin Wallace is living proof that you don't have to have ever been in contracting to earn a FAC-C level 1. And so this is as much time as we have to cover this topic today in the prepared material, though obviously if you have questions, we can do that. I do have a suggestion for further study. There's a TMS course that also provides an overview of the FAC-C certification program. It doesn't cover as many topics as we did, and it's slightly outdated since it was made in the FATOS era before Cornerstone On Demand, but the rest of the information is good. It uses a fun cartoon to narrate the material, and it does explore the requirements of FAC-Cs level 2 and 3. It's only about half an hour long. So that brings us to our final question to you, my beloved, exceedingly good looking, and above average in every respect audience. Did you find that this class helped you learn for the first time or refresh your knowledge of the FAC-C certification's value for the AUS job series? If so, great. What did you find most helpful? If not, what did we miss? What would have made this more helpful? I want to make these classes as useful as possible, so please put your answer in the chat or send us an email. We like feedback.
One answer already was heck yes.
All right, a heck yes, I like that.
Everything was helpful. Yes. Yes, very good instruction.
Good deal. Good deal. Now
yes,
all of you are
yes,
going to
yes.
now all of you are going to go out and try to earn your FAC-C certification. That's right. We're going to keep that contract professional school busy. So glad to hear it. And so Martin and I thank you for your time, and we hope that you got value out of this class. This is the end of the class material. And before we get on to your questions and comments, I do want to show you where you can find the slides for this class and the other AUSPD training classes very quickly. I know Hope dropped the link in the chat at the beginning of the class, but in case that got buried, we will drop it in there again. And so here at the Operations Planning and Readiness SharePoint site, you've got numbered in the order in which they are presented and meant to be viewed every AUSPD class so far given. Now we're working on more. I've got one about done on how to audit contracts, very helpful tool. And Martin is working on one about what is that? Contracting officer representatives, what they're supposed to do, what standards apply to them, and what the AUS is supposed to do with them, because we have a special role when it comes to the corps. Not only might we be a corps, but we also owe them certain training and oversight functions. So if you go here, you can see all these things. And for example, you'll notice in here we have a recording of one of the classes, and we also have the slides, training pamphlet, and for the key questions that we identify from you during the classes, we'll make a frequently asked question. So in case you didn't have a chance or you're giving this class to someone new to watch, then they can get the answers to the questions that they might see on the screen, but weren't there to hear the answers. We want to make sure that everybody's covered in that regard. And let's see, one other thing. I may drop this and they get this link into the slides or into the comments. There we go. All right, there's that. And that is what I got. So with that out of the way, what are your questions? Marty, do we have some hot questions from earlier on that we want to get to first? Or do we just want to start picking through the chat? What you got?
You'd be amazed to find out that this crowd was actually quite silent and paying attention to what you were saying by having side conversations in the chat room. So,
Well,
no,
that's okay.
there were no
okay.
questions. Except for just recently, Wendy Stewart said she couldn't find the TMS class
39056.
in TMS.
Well, I've taken it within, I believe, the last month. So if it went away very quickly. So I would suggest taking a look for FAC-C. Just do a search for FAC-C and see what comes up there. That would be most rude of them to have taken it away after I took it, enjoyed it, and then bragged to y'all about what a good little class it was. And like when I said it's narrated in the form of a cartoon, somebody put some effort into this thing. And it's set up like this. A senior contract specialist is like the established superhero, and the new contract specialist is like their understudy. But I tell you what, the leer on the junior contract specialist face, I'm thinking that guy's going to become a villain at some point. I don't know, something about his eyes just creeped me out through the entire thing, but it helped me pay attention to the class. And it's worth the time if it's okay. Okay, Marissa says that she just took it. All right, good, good. You just took it yesterday, so you're just boning up on FAC-Cs all over the place. I like it. It sounds like you've got some intent. You wanna make this happen. I see a question here. We'll be providing the slides to purchasing oh no, that's a comment.
Yep,
To
statement.
purchase agents for future career progression. That is fantastic. That is great. Because purchasing agents, they do have an important role when it comes to acquisitions. But the more I'm looking into them, I'm finding that, as with many areas, there's opportunities for better training out there for purchasing agents. Like they need some more attention paid to them, because purchasing agents, I've seen quite a few go over to contracting and move up in that. And I'm confident some of them have jumped over to the AUS world. So when it comes to developing our more junior GS grade acquisitions professionals like purchasing agents, we should absolutely do it. That's great. That's great. Encourage them. And yeah, you don't have to do. You don't have to be an AUS. You don't have to be a contract specialist to get your FAC-C certification. One trick I would recommend, though, for the sake of your training budgets, is first step, make sure whoever wants to get a FAC-C certification gets their FAC Core Level 1, because then every class that they take can be counted as continuing education points, or CLPs, and doesn't come out of your training budget. It's already covered by the academy. So yeah, get them their core 1 first, and then just set them loose. Go nuts. Ah, beautiful. We got a screenshot showing that it still exists. Yeah, thanks, John. That's great. All right, I'm gonna start scrolling through these comments, see if I got anything. And this is the time, if you want to unmute yourself and ask a question or provide a comment, please do. We will be here as long as we've got things to talk about. Assist with keeping people out of jail. Good Lord, what? It's true. It's true, because a significant component of the FAC-C certification process and the training program is ethics. It's okay to screw up. It's okay to, don't go out of your way to do it, but it's morally okay to do it, and it's okay to do it in government acquisitions, so long as your screw up was you did it without intending any harm and without any aim of personal gain from it. You didn't mean anything bad by it, and you weren't trying to get rich off of it or accrue some benefit to yourself. Now, there's a lot more to that general lesson, but um, one thing I'd heard previously from a now NCO director is that if you're not making mistakes, you're not trying. And there's a lot of flexibility and creativity that can be used in federal contracting work because the FAR, the VAR, all that they are empowering tools. They're generally not restricting tools. So if you get all excited by principles that the regulations say you can do, and you go off and you do something, and it turns out you shouldn't have done that. As long as you meant well and didn't intend to hurt anybody or gain personally, you're probably going to be okay.
So what you're saying is there is a chance. I was kidding.
All right. Okay. Got a quiet room, so I'll give it to 102. And if we don't have anything to talk about by then, we will wish you a good day. But by all means, if you want to discuss anything, do so. And if you're interested in going for a FAC-C level 1, it's a good time to talk about it. We can help you out there. Unauthorized commitment should be in all orientation courses. Yes, because anybody can commit an unauthorized commitment. Anybody can do it. Absolutely. That is a good observation, Marissa. Oh, you're welcome, William. And that unauthorized commitment stuff, that just eats up so much time, and it eats up money that wasn't properly accounted for, and it's not good. It's not good. I find that there's generally a lack of enforcement of the stick part. You got carrots and sticks. Well, unauthorized commitments. By policy, if you commit an unauthorized commitment, then your supervisor or whoever the approving authority for the unauthorized commitment is, they can say, well, you did this, you pay it, and you can be stuck with that thing. Now, if that happened more often, if more people were made to feel the pain of their unauthorized commitments, I guarantee you we see a lot less of them. But for whatever reason, that doesn't happen. And so you get more of what you reward. But I would always, whenever talking to a contractor, if I'm not a warranted contracting officer, I'm making sure to put the disclaimer on every conversation. I'm not committing any money. I'm not making any promises. I'm just here to ask a few questions and gather information. That's all I'm doing. And all right, for a different topic, we got Marie. What's going on, Marie?
Hey, this is for AUSes, but it's in regards to that vector contract. Have you seen any movement from any other sites other than Vision 23 on vector contract?
That is a whole different subject.
Yes.
Yes, Vision 20, I believe, has some progress in their effort to use it. I would need to pull up the email to see that, but I can get that to you after we're done.
Well,
here.
what they found out.
Oh,
for
Martin
Vision
would
20,
know. Yeah.
What they found out for Vision 20 was it does not work with Edge. It worked with Google Chrome OS, and so
Okay.
our contracting officers have had to shift gears a little bit on what platform they use when they're accessing the vector contract. So if your contract specialist or officers are having issues, have them switch over to Google Chrome and see if it works.
Because they have to go through that whole Adams program and not
Yeah.
ECMS. So, okay,
Yeah.
that was my question. So I know it's kind of off of what you discussed, but.
Oh no, that's fine. And Martin, so the NCO COs are saying that they're able to use Adams now and they can get these things put through on their own, or are we still having to route it through the SAC? You know?
No, they can act like ordering officers and order through that Adams program. Our
Okay.
biggest hangup was before they couldn't even get it to work. I mean,
Yeah.
they'd already accomplished the training, they just couldn't get anything to work. And then when they switched over to Google Chrome, it suddenly worked, but it took them a long time to figure that out.
Okay. So for NCO 23, the team has got trained in July. However, I'm keeping the contract at the SAC level. So
Good.
they're doing the contract, hopefully award on September 15th. So, but I was just curious if that Chrome had gotten fixed. So from what you're telling me, I appreciate that feedback
Mhm.
because moving forward, I need that. So
Good. And thank you for keeping us in the loop on your efforts, because we took what you said, fed it into our Vision 20 customer, and then they started pushing in that direction. And then something, got jostled loose. And that's how they found out about the Chrome. And so it looks like both avenues for getting those task orders through can work, but we had to push hard enough to get the system to work. So thank you for what you've done.
thanks.
Hmm. All right. Anybody else? Give it 108. And if we don't have anything to talk about, we're going to jet on out of here. Welcome, Marissa. All right, Barbara, do you have a few moments to help me navigate Cornerstone on Demand? Feel free to unmute yourself. First question: do you have access to Cornerstone on Demand? Can you log in? Okay, you just got in. All right, and what are we looking for? Thanks, Monica. Appreciate it.
I tried to do a side by side with you when you were doing it, and since I had to reset passwords and stuff, I got sort of lost.
Okay.
So just
Well,
don't
tell
know
you
what
what.
I'm doing here.
I'll present mine since it's still open. And okay, so we're looking for the FAC-C. Welcome, welcome,
I think
Chris.
I have both of them. I just want to know how
Right here.
you update to get more classes added in there. And I'm in learning, and it says I have core FAC-2. Let's see, let's go back. And it says acquisition training, open curriculum. Is that where I put my classes?
Tell you what, since yours is specific to your file, let's do that after the class. We're at 108. You were my last question, so I'll give you a call right afterward. We hang up here. Appreciate y'all, and it's good talking to y'all. Hope you have a great day.
Thank you.